Hello students. In these videos we're going to look at modeling in 3D via SketchUp for Schools, our desk buddy. So this is a basic desk buddy that I have done. You might be able to tell that I'm hoping for it to look like a giraffe, and I'm going to be doing this in 3 stages, I think. The first stage, which will be in this video, will be modeling the basic desk buddy shape. The second video I think will be adjusting it or modifying it to have more of this shaping, like the curves and the neck and so forth. And then I think I'll do a third video where I'll go through how to make this headpiece. And it looks quite complicated, but it's still using the basic idea of simple shapes being added and subtracted away from each other. So most likely this will be a 3 video process. And I do think though that the head will be the longest video. So let's start with this video looking at how we can just model the basic shape of the desk buddy, the main box area. So I'll start first of all with a new file. So I do have one ready to go. So you'd have to obviously log into your SketchUp using your school account and get yourself ready. Now, the first thing that we tend to do is remove the little person here. Remember, they've just been added for a bit of scale. We don't need them. And I'm going to now create this basic box using a few different methods that you can use and apply to different designs. So I tend to create things in SketchUp mostly from a flat beginning. So I'm going to start with the base. Now the base is a simple rectangle. So I'm going to be using my rectangle tool. And I do like to begin all my models from the origin. It just seems like a good place to start. So I'm going to begin by drawing just a basic rectangle. What I'm looking for here is that it is longer in one direction than wide, and that is so that when I let go of my basic shape like I have here, I can look down here in the bottom right hand corner and I can see which of the two measurements is going to be the length, so the one going across the red axis, and which would be the width. Because what I want to do now before I click on anything else is type in the correct dimensions. Because what I've drawn here is something that is just a rectangle of any size, but I want it now to be the correct dimensions. And for the basic box for our desk buddies, that is 140 millimeters long by 90 millimeters wide. So that is 140 millimeters along the length and 90 millimeters on this width. So we'll do that by typing in the numbers 140, and if you look down the bottom right, you can see in that dimensions box as I type them, they're coming in. So 140, comma 90. The 140 will be the measurement for this direction, and the 90 will be the measurement for that direction. Now I haven't entered the millimeter unit in. I don't need to because my file already knows that I'm working in millimeters. However, you can add the millimeter unit if for some reason you wanted to use a different unit of measurement. But basically at this point, if I press enter, it has now resized what I just drew to use the measurements that I've entered in. And that is a very, very powerful thing to do. With most of the tools, when you're adding or subtracting something to your model, if you draw or create the piece and then you let go of your mouse button, for example, and then you immediately start typing, you'll be able to enter in the measurements. And we'll be doing that a number of different times. So let's have a look. If I zoom in a bit closer now, this is the size of my base that will be pre-cut for me. And it's going to be made out of plywood, and that plywood is going to be 3 millimeters thick. So I would like to pull this out to make it also 3 millimeters. So I'm going to come over here and use my push-pull tool. I'm going to be able to select the entire shape there and pull it up. And again, I can pull up any amount, because if I then again let go of my mouse button, don't click anywhere else, but look over here in the distance, I can type 3 straight in. And when I press enter, it's put it back to being 3 millimeters. So I now have a 3D model that properly represents the base that I'm going to have available. So it's 140 millimeters long, it's 90 millimeters wide, and it's 3 millimeters thick. Now, I'm going to introduce a new idea, and that is making things into components. So if we think about it, we don't want this, if I use my selection for it, we don't want this to be a separate line here and another line here and another line here and all these different sections that I have to keep organized. I'm going to highlight over everything and you can see all the different lines and surfaces that have been chosen. I'm going to right click now, and I'm going to say make component. So I'm basically merging these in together to be one piece that I can move around and do things with by itself. I'm going to give it a name, so I'll call this the base. And I do like to put something in description. So this is going to be, what I say, 140 by 90 by 3 mm. And I said it's going to be plywood. I like to put some information in the description. You don't have to, but it helps later on sometimes. We're not going to worry about these things, so we can just press OK. And you'll now see that is one piece. If I click onto it, you can see everything is selected. And if I click off it, it all goes away. So it's now a single piece. And that is really, really useful, as you'll see in just a minute. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in one of the end pieces. Now, end piece is going to be the same width across, which is 90, and they're going to go to 120 mm up to begin with. Now, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to again take my rectangle. I'm going to start by zooming in a little bit and starting with one corner. So I'm using the fact that the tool likes to click in and join onto something. I'm going to take it across and lock it into the other edge. Again, I'm not worried about the exact size this way at the moment. What I am worried about is the size that it's locking in on the other side. If I let go again and look down at the bottom, I can now see that it's saying I've got a 90mm and approximately the wavy line 15mm that way. I know the 90mm is correct. I've locked it onto these two sides. So it is going to be 90, but the wood that we're going to use, the pine wood that we will be using, is 12mm thick. So I'm going to make my second measurement 12. Press enter, and you saw that it jumped back to the correct size. Now, what I have done though is I haven't actually modified this base. That is one piece. I've got a separate drawing sitting on top of it. And that's another good reason that you would make things into components, because everything I'm doing now is not actually changing this component. Okay. What I'm going to do now though is I'm going to take that and pull it up just any amount. I don't care how much, because I'm going to immediately type in 120. You can see it down the bottom. Press enter. And if I zoom out a little bit more so I can see a bit better, there you go. That is my end piece at its maximum size. Okay. Now I want to make that a component as well. So let's take our selection tool, highlight everything. Now it's very important. If you only highlight some of it, then you'll only get the parts of the model that you have fully enclosed in that selection. So by selecting just that, I'm only getting these top pieces. I didn't get any of the downward lines because they weren't fully enclosed. But if I select everything there, I don't have to worry about getting any of this base, because again, it's one piece, remember, because we made a component and I didn't select the whole component, therefore it didn't get selected. It's a good reason for doing components. So let's make that a component. So make component, and let's call that an end. Okay, I didn't bother putting a description this time just to speed things up, but that is an end. So I now have one end and the base. I can now copy this end and put it at the other end because they're the same. So I'm just going to simply right click and choose copy as usual. Where did it go? I'm not sure. Oh, sorry, I forgot they made them into icons up the top here. So I want to choose a copy, and then I want to choose the paste, and you'll see that I have another piece here. So I'm just going to bring it roughly near the edge, and I'm going to show you another little trick. So if I rotate around to get a better view of this, and a bit of zooming in and out as well, but if I take my moving tool, so again, this is the moving tool here, and I grab that corner, I can lock it to the corner of the base. So I'm making sure that these line up properly by literally locking them together. So if I let go and zoom out again and a bit of rotating, you can see I've got two ends. All right, and I didn't have to redraw it because this end is the same as that end, the one that we drew originally. Now you might be able to guess how I'm going to do the sides, but basically same idea. I'm going to take my rectangle tool, I'm going to give myself a decent angle, and I'm going to draw again using the corner here to where it joins on the edge there. Again, I don't need to worry about how long this distance is because it's literally sitting between the two edges, so I have to get it right. So we look down the bottom, it's 116. And again, I'm using 12 millimeters, so I'm going to change that to 12. So I'm going to 116, comma 12. All right, there's my piece of wood, and I'm going to pull that up. Now, this is a little bit different because this piece is only going to be 68 millimeters tall. Now, the reason for that is the way that we cut it for you. You just have to go with me on this, but we're going to come up and we'll turn that into 68. So I typed it in, you see it down the bottom right there, press enter, and I've got a side that is 68. Now, so far, whenever we've made a new piece, we've made it into a component, and that's what I'm going to try and do again. But I'm going to select everything that makes up that that side. But what I want you to notice is I've also managed to choose the base, because even though I couldn't see it, all the base that was back here was inside my selection tool. So I'm going to show you something that can be very, very useful. And again, because I've been making components, this works a lot easier. If I was to, for example, choose this end, I can right click and I can hide it. So it's not deleted, it's not gone, it's just hidden. And that's really, really powerful. Let's hide some more things, including the base, because things that are hidden can't be selected. So now that they are all hidden, I can very easily grab this piece that was the side without worrying about accidentally grabbing things that I don't want and turn this into a component. So let's call this side, and I have that there. Now you might be wondering, how do I get my pieces back? Well, the easiest way is to come over here on your right hand side to your tools and just choose this one here, which is the little like eyeglasses, which is for display. And you can see right at the top of that, there is a thing about hiding and showing. So I can unhide, in this case, just all of them, because I want everything back again. All right, let's rotate around, and I might just knock that away to give myself some space. And just like we did with the ends, I'm going to choose this one and copy a second one over here. And this time I'm not going to do the right click and choose the options. I'm just going to use the shortcut key. So just like in most programs, Control C is copy, Control V is paste, and bring it over into the place I'd like. Then I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to use that idea of taking a corner and locking it into another corner to put it in place. Let's rotate it back around into our normal angle, and here we go. We have just modeled the whole basic shape. Okay, so we have our base piece, we have two ends, and we have two sides, and this is the entirety of the basic shape for a desk buddy, using the pieces that will be pre-cut for you. And then our next video in a second, we're going to be looking at how we can take this model and start adding some of our own customizations. And in the case of our example giraffe, if I just jump back to it for a second, that would be adding this curve and changing the back of it to be like this, and also building this neck shape in. We'll look at the head in a third possible video. So hopefully you've been able to follow along. We have drawn basic shapes, all been rectangles at this point, but basic shapes. We've been able to set their correct sizes by using the distance or size box down the bottom. We've looked at making things into components, which makes them much easier to manage. We've also looked at hiding and showing different pieces. And we've also looked at copying or duplicating pieces and moving them around properly. So quite a few really useful skills there that you can apply to different models that you might make.